And now for issue 19. The comic starts with all the freedom fighters finally discovering one of those trans-dimensional portals that show up for some reason. Well, I guess it is explained later, but it's a plot hole right now. Why the hell is Sonic acting like he only vaguely remembers going through portals like these, when he's done so a million times before? I say a million because he was so casual about how he used the cosmic interstate as a shortcut earlier, that he was implying that he had gone through these portals a huge amount of times. Not to mention him going through a portal to a crazy dimension with Al and Cal in issue 2, which, judging from how annoyed he was afterwards, must have been a memorable experience. Going to different dimensions alone is a memorable experience. Meeting his own evil twin must have been a memorable experience. Something he only did because he randomly went through a portal like this. But oh no, apparently Sonic doesn't remember that at all. Bullshit. Dimension of life. That's awkward dialogue there. Of life was excess baggage that the scientists didn't need to have. So is this the issue where they're finally going to explain why the hell portals to random dimensions have been randomly popping up for Sonic to go to them? Nope. Then a Sonic with half of his face and a creepy looking robot appearance shows up. I guess he was tossed into the portal? Well, he wasn't, but it kind of looks like it from the way he entered. And it goes into attack mode immediately, I guess because he assumed that the freedom fighters aren't good guys when they don't look like bad guys at all. Why would he just assume that they went to the evil universe and has to be on his guard? And even though he was paranoid enough to go into attack mode at first seeing them, not to mention robotic enough to say attack mode like a robot, but for some reason it was extremely easy for them to convince him that they're on his side and getting to explain his backstory. That's convenient. Oh, so now Sonic remembers meeting Scourge. Whatever. So Cyborg Sonic comes from a universe that's somehow even more terrible than the Prime one, where Eggman turned all the freedom fighters into cyborgs. Hopefully not ones as scary looking as that, which naturally went south for him because I guess he forgot to remove their free will when turning them into his personal super soldiers. Seriously, what benefit did Eggman have in making this Sonic have a robot face? Well, apparently all of his friends have half a robot face. Why? This is unnecessarily dark design. And so that version of Robotnik subjected himself to his own roboticization process in desperation to win, because of how much more powerful he made the freedom fighters. I'm not sure how he knew that he would be able to benefit from that. So what if he's a robot now? He shouldn't be any more capable than he was before from using his machines anyways. It's like, okay, he's a robot, so I guess he's harder to injure, because skin is more easy to injure than metal. But other than that, like, he can use machinery, technology, but he was using that anyways. But apparently his becoming Metal Robotnik was a tipping point that caused Cybersonic to flee to the cosmic interstate for some extra help. Sonic agrees to help him while calling him Chrome Dome as a friendly nickname that you'd think would be extremely insulting and insensitive, as anyone with half a robot face would be both traumatized from it, which would explain his more serious attitude, and have a severe amount of shame over the way he looks to the point of not wanting to be insulted for it. So we cut past all the different trips to different dimensions that Sonic has tediously made. Good, because that would take forever. Some of the Sonics have really terrible designs, but every design creates some intrigue about what exactly kinds of circumstances in life each Sonic has experienced to be the way they are. There's a cowboy Sonic, a Sonic wrapped in mummy bandages, I guess to hide some terrible scars or something, a Batman Sonic, I guess his parents were killed by the Joker then. There's a creepily human-looking muscular Sonic, and an Attila the Hun Sonic that I suppose are from ancient tribal days. So the different dimensions can be at different times from each other, I guess because different dimensions are not all the same age, they didn't all get created at the same time. Some Sonics have silly green outfits because of a lack of fashion sense. There's a sailor Sonic, a straw hat hobo Sonic who looks miserable and we'll never know his story. There's a Sonic in a top hat who I guess is a magician like Joe from Arrested Development, and a few unoriginal looking Sonic designs clearly trying to copy superheroes. There's a caveman Sonic, a Sonic who looks like he should be a second evil Sonic because he has a creepy look on his face and creepy mustache, and yet he's still willing to help with all the other ones. There's a few edgy Sonics and an astronaut Sonic and submarine diver Sonic for some reason. And a violinist Sonic as well. and a snooty chef Sonic too. This is all showing the different hobbies and interests Sonic could have potentially had if his life was different. Maybe the other Sonics have different, have fathers with different jobs and hobbies, so they're influenced by them. Although it seems arbitrary that these Sonics would choose to dress up in a way that shows their personal hobby. Like, why would the violinist Sonic take his precious violin with him? It's just gonna get broken in a fight. Maybe they felt pressured to make it more obvious what their distinct, unique quirk is by dressing up like it to stand out better. After all, I'm sure seeing so many different versions of yourself would make anyone self-conscious to stand out. And the other thing that's interesting is that only some of the Sonics have a smile eager to battle on their faces. Other Sonics look serious, implying that if Sonic's life had gone differently, perhaps been worse, he would have been changed into a serious and irritable person like Shadow. In fact, it looks like most of the Sonics here are negative. And Sonic turning out negative in the situation was a lot more likely and logical anyways. Of course most of the Sonics are serious. They probably lost loved ones to their Robotnik. With them being in a situation where they're fighting against a tyrant with powerful technology and all, it makes sense that so many Sonics would experience such terrible events that they would end up being serious as a result. Sonic was lucky that he kept his positivity. So his personality in general is not set in stone. See, this is why I love the concept of evil twins and dimensional counterparts in general. They showcase the various different ways someone could turn out to be. Sonic wasn't guaranteed to turn out the way he did. No one was. That's fascinating. Being the prime Sonic, Sonic is the one who's told to make a speech motivating all the other Sonics to fight against Metal Robotnik specifically instead of their own Robotnik. Because I'm sure none of them were in the middle of doing something really important at the moment, they could easily leave their universes to help him. I say this because it's implied that all of the other Sonics are here. When the likelihood of every single other Sonic being perfectly available for this occasion, instead of being sick or too injured or something, is pretty slim when you consider how many other Sonics there could be. How many other dimensions are there? Not to mention how ridiculous it is that every other universe other than Anti-Mobius has an evil Robotnik who chose to become an inventor and took over the world with that. You know how unlikely it is? You know how crazy the concept of an evil dictator taking over the world with inventions is? So it's even more ridiculous that practically every other universe in the multiverse would have that problem. You're telling me out of all the infinite possibilities out there, there's no universe where Eggman became a painter? Or a whale expert? Every single universe all being ruled by Robotnik, who's exactly like all the other ones, while Sonic himself has so many different variations of himself, they're all unique in one way. It's really contrived and depressing. This would feel a little better if we were told that there was only like 100 other universes. But instead we're expected to believe, I guess it's implied, that there's way more than 100. And the whole idea of an alternate dimension version of you that nevertheless has this world being completely different is nonsensical. It's a butterfly effect. How is it even born? If even one minor thing in the past has changed, it could have radical consequences for the future. How likely is it that all of the other universes have simultaneously had the counterparts of the parents of Sonic, for example, decide they wanted to have a kid with each other, and thus the DNA of his mother and the DNA of his father would have matched together to create Sonic? It's much more likely that Sonic's parents in those dimensions would choose other mates from having different lives, not running into each other at all, or maybe having a different type, dating-wise. Maybe living in different countries from each other. All because their worlds are different. So the circumstances leading to Sonic, or a counterpart of Sonic being created, wouldn't happen. And that's just one of multiple examples. The speech is quickly interrupted by Metal Robotnik's forces showing up, and a projection of his head appears like in the Fleetway comics' overly dark version of Eggman. I guess Metal Robotnik... oh, sorry. Robo Robotnik figured out that he should look in the Prime universe to find all the Sonics, because where else would they have their meeting than the most important of the universes? Wait, says who? Who's arbitrarily decided on calling Sonic's universe the most important one? How do they know it's not just as important or unimportant as all of the other ones? Who decided on which universe was the official one, aside from the writers of this comic? This is a very meta concept. Anyways, Robo Robotnik shows up, having gotten a hold of interdimensional travel technology somehow. A very overpowered and cheap plot device for a villain to have. What, did the Zone Cops accidentally leave behind some teleporters in his dimension? Yeah, that's a thing, by the way. We'll get to that. Eggman shows up and in a big damn heroes moment, ironically saves Sonic and his friends by destroying Robo-Robotnik's Shadow Swap bots. Well, he certainly knows how to make a cool and badass sounding name. Reminds me of Twilight Princess with its Twilight monsters. But if the reason behind them being called that is that they're painted dark to look more menacing, even though they don't seem any more menacing than normal swap bots, why the hell did he take that long to start painting them that way and calling them that? Why did it take him so long to come up with that idea? I say it's only a recent thing because he calls them Shadow Swap bots instead of just swap bots, so they must be recent. And why doesn't every Robotnik have robots looking at names like that for the intimidating factor alone? But yeah, Robotnik against Robotnik. It's a fairly interesting concept to me, even though they have no difference in their so-called characters whatsoever. So it's really not intriguing at all. They don't even bother to have a different backstory. Robo-Robotnik leaves in a pathetic attempt to make everyone think he's going to give up that easily. Not very smart if he really assumes that'll fool literally everyone there. And Eggman proposes a truce with Sonic to pool their resources against their common enemy, having a smart and wise decision for once. I'm curious, is this the first time ever in the series' history that Sonic and Eggman have teamed up together? Nowadays it's old hat, but I'm sure this was a really shocking twist at the time. Especially with the dark and gritty version of Eggman, who is so ridiculously strawman over the top that the idea they'd work together with Sonic seems unthinkable. I find it to be a really refreshing change of pace that there's a villain other than Eggman or Scourge for once. Eggman's reluctantly allowed to be the one making the plan even though he's evil, because he's a genius. Just as I thought, the muscular Sonic is the dumb brute who talks like a caveman at that. And a few other Sonics playfully trip him to show their superiority in intelligence after he questions why they're even making a plan. How different was his life that he would end up with such a radically different personality from Sonic? How does he even qualify as a Sonic? I mean, he has the same DNA, doesn't he? He makes Boom Knuckles look smart and three-dimensional. Is he Sonic with brain damage and grown up in a society he thinks might makes right? Anyways, Eggman starts out by pointing out the obvious, that Robo-Robotnik wants to destroy all of them. Really? He could do that if he had a brand new super weapon that comes completely out of nowhere that Eggman knows about for some reason. The Giant's Hand, an alien weapon of great power that he located in the neutral zone. He sends a bunch of Sonics to go retrieve it in the neutral zone, which you'd think would be the Prime Universe? Whatever. And Robo-Robotnik, who's watching them the whole time through a monitor at a distance, decides to summon Scourge to help him, with a flash of green light that ends up making it look like Scourge forgot to wear his deodorant that day. Wait a minute, hold up, how the hell is he able to do this so easily? If he can summon anyone to his location at any time, why didn't he just do that with everyone he wanted to get rid of? Why didn't he summon the actual Sonic to him and shoot him in the head before he can even get a grip on where he is? Why didn't he do that one by one with every one of his enemies? Well, then there would be no story, of course. But such a giant gaping plot hole caused by him having such an overpowered for a villain technology is not a problem to be shrugged off so easily. He also calls Scourge evil straight to his face, so casual like that. And I haven't mentioned it in a while, but you can't know you're evil, or you'd hate yourself. It's psychological impossibility. So I guess villains like this are using the word evil as a badge of honor to mean cool, rebellious, practical, and so on, rather than actually thinking of themselves as scumbags who shouldn't exist, as the word evil actually means. Robo-Robotnik is portrayed as a smart, magnificent bastard here for being able to predict that Scourge's personal desire for more control in his life would lead to him wanting to work for him out of pure selfishness. But it could have just as likely been that Scourge would have killed him immediately to usurp him. I mean, if he thinks that Scourge wants power, wouldn't he have just done that? He was making a pretty big assumption there, trusting him. Why didn't he? Why didn't he settle for being his lackey? Wouldn't he be insulted at that? Well, I guess it is like him since he does a similar thing again much later on in the comic, but still. Why'd he trust him? And why'd he trust him? The thing that intrigued me about Scourge working with him here is that the story would have gone differently if Sonic had been able to convince him, to get it through his head, that Robo-Robotnik can't be trusted not to roboticize him, or be trusted at all. Why didn't Sonic at least try to tell him this when he saw him? then Scourge would have fought against him too, just out of spite for him. But instead, through a naive lack of experience with fighting an evil Eggman, it never even occurs to him that Robotnik would be planning against him from day one. That the number one priority on any Robotnik's mind would be robbing everyone inside of their free will. It makes sense that he'd make this mistake, inexperience and all, and I bet if someone tried to warn him, he'd go into denial because he doesn't want to believe he could be misled that easily. It confuses me, though, that's only Scourge, and he doesn't think to bring any of his fellow gang members along. Not even Miles, who's the closest to him in power, being able to fly and run really fast. You think Robotnik would have summoned him too, unless he had a good reason to think that Miles wouldn't have trusted him or been comfortable working for him just because he says so. What's most confusing about this is that Robotnik really thinks that having just one Sonic against a whole army of Sonics would let him win? That's pathetic! That's like a one-legged man in a 10-mile race! Does he really think that one measly Sonic against possibly thousands of other equally powerful Sonics would be the deciding factor in letting him win? Anyone would be screwed when it gets that many individuals in a fight. All everyone would have to do is gang up on him and tackle him and they'd win! Which speaks to his badassery, I guess, that didn't happen. He can only focus on fighting so many people at a time. They really expect me to believe Robotnik is this brilliant, magnificent bastard who's always one step ahead of everyone, and then he greatly overestimates Scourge's power. He's a Sonic, therefore he's just as powerful as one Sonic, against millions of Sonics. That's not gonna go well. He was doomed from the start. What an idiotic villain. But at the very least he could have done was try to get more help than that. So after Sonic and his other allies have to take a leap of faith into the neutral zone because it's incorrectly labeled by the sign as a point of no return, which they can return from, so what was the point? Scourge shows up with a bunch of Shadow swap bots that Robotnik should know full well by now would be easily destroyed in seconds anyways, and tries to prevent Sonic from getting the Giant's Glove or whatever, saying that his true motivation is to be the one and only Sonic. That's actually a lot more interesting than him just wanting power all of a sudden, as if he didn't already have it before. I say it's his true motivation because him saying it to Sonic, and only it, proves that it's the motivation that's truly the most important to him. It applies some character development with him from the last time Sonic talked to him, and that finding out he wasn't really special really messed with him. It made him desperate to become the only one. But again, he mentioned knowing about the cosmic interstates already in that previous issue, so he couldn't have been finding out that there were other Sonics for the first time if he had already experienced with arbitrarily deciding on dimension hopping for no reason. I forgot to point out how odd it is that on his first meeting with Sonic, he chose to have a race with him, instead of trying to hurt or kill him. A race! A harmless little race! Huh. I wonder if that actually implies something about his true nature. He's more interested in proving he's not inferior to Sonic than actually inconveniencing him by killing him. He could have snapped his neck at Sonic speed if he really wanted him gone. If he really had the motivation, he'd easily be the most threatening villain that Sonic could ever face because of how fast he is. But it seems like he doesn't really care about killing him all that much. And again, I love how he talks. Correctamundo and cahoots, the form of which I can imagine Sonic regularly saying. I'm talking like Sonic is great because he's a fascinating demonstration of what Sonic could have been. Emphasis on Sonic. So if he was absolutely incomparable to him, there'd be nothing intriguing or entertaining about his character and the fact that he's a villain. He'd just be some guy who happens to look like Sonic and that doesn't mean anything. It turns out the Shadow swap bots were only there as a distraction, as Scourge was able to take advantage of super speed to grab the Giant's hand while they were fighting the robots, having clearly prioritized the wrong target. No, sorry, he didn't grab the Giant's hand. But why the hell didn't they go for Scourge first? He was clearly the bigger threat. He was the only one among the enemy side that could move fast enough to be a problem. They were clearly handed the idiot ball on this one. Sonic tripped Scourge to callback, and Karma when he did the same thing to him. But through a Diabolus Ex Machina, Robotnik's magic sensors magically teleported the super weapon to him, making him deciding to send a bunch of things. Well, I guess they were the distraction, and that's really it. Why is the super weapon even a thing at all? Who created it? Why didn't the person who had created it use it by now? This is the entire premise of half of the plot, and only exists for the sake of arbitrarily making Robo-Robotnik more threatening. Robo-Robotnik goes into the control console to command the power of the Giant's hand. Oh, sorry, Giant's Borg. Why bother using the word Borg if he's not anything like the Borg? Sally, being the negative realist, complains that they failed, telling Sonic something he already knows, that they lost the Giant's hand to Robo-Robotnik. Why did he need the Giant's hand when he could have just built this giant mech suit himself? Eggman can build a time machine just like that. Although he was too stupid to think to use it to get rid of the Freedom Fighters and they're too young to defend themselves. Which is why giving a villain easy access to a time machine is bullshit. You can't have them actually use it the way a real person would, or the plot would be over too quickly. And a depressing ending. But anyways, I was expecting the Giant's hand to be like a nuke, like in Pokemon X and Y. Not a giant mech he could have built on his own anyways. At least Sonic points out that Sally's being a Captain Obvious here. After the Sonics start trying to blame each other with no real basis for it because of their own immaturity and egos, Sally plays the mediator and tells them to stop, ending with a confusing line that they don't have enough fingers. Why wouldn't they? At least the other Freedom Fighters are finally getting to do something, or at least one of them. The story was looking like just a Sonic show. Little friends? I didn't notice, I guess there are tiny Sonics. Multiple at that. Genetic mutation, I guess? There's infinite possibilities, so many different universes, so I guess it makes sense that there could be more than one tiny Sonic. Maybe that abnormality runs in the family, and so that's makes it more likely. So if there's infinite possibilities, then honestly this also creates a plot hole where I wonder how the hell there's only one evil Sonic in the entire multiverse. Well, this might not be a plot hole technically, because it's never explicitly stated, at least as far as I know, that there are an infinite amount of possibilities and infinite amount of universes. Maybe there's so few of them that it's plausible that there's only one evil Sonic dimension hopping and everything, and only one Eggman that's not an evil dictator. Because that's the only way it would make sense, that there's only a few of them. If there were an infinite amount of them, then it would mess things up. One of the Sonics points out that he's fought mechs that were even bigger than this. I was right! This only drives my point home that the Giant's hand didn't even need to exist. That Robo-Robotnik could have built this all on his own. Some of the Sonics get attacked by the mech, which fortunately doesn't leave him injured because they probably are needed for the fatal blow afterwards. While he's off balance from the way he attacks them, all of the Sonics smartly hit him with spin edges as hard as they can in exactly the right place, all at once. How egotistical and delusional was Robo-Robotnik that he didn't see this one coming? That might have been intentional, but still, it was blatantly obvious that having so many individuals as powerful as Sonic on one team would guarantee their victory from sheer power alone. He never even had a chance. What an idiotic villain. Good thing he never killed anyone important with his mech going all over the place. Instead of situating it far from civilization or something, so it would take too long for him to cause any real damage. Cyborg Sonic takes the head of Robo-Robotnik as a spiteful souvenir, and destroys it, hopefully. I sure hope he's able to make himself look good again after ensuring peace in his own world. And of course, Eggman promptly has an evil plan again after finding the giant Borg fully capable of being rebuilt, because it coincidentally collapsed in a way where it's easy to be rebuilt. Naturally, he was too stupid to wait until after everyone already left before making this outburst, which was a warning for all the Sonics to keep him from causing trouble. Some other Sonics decided to scatter the interlocking parts of the giant Borg to the four corners of creation. So who exactly created this multiverse anyways, in universe? Why the hell don't they just completely incinerate these parts instead of making it fully possible to reassemble them? If one Robotnik was able to magically find out about the Giant's hand and its location, this is guaranteed to happen again. At least Sally is smart enough to question this. Although the story ends with a cheesy/heartwarming message from Sonic that if you can't trust yourself, who can you trust? That doesn't really work logically, since just because you can't trust yourself doesn't mean other people are untrustworthy. What kind of logic is that? Speaking of logic, this story didn't really have any. Well, that's an exaggeration, but who made the Giant's hand in the first place just to never actually use it? It's the whole crux of the plot, and it's completely superfluous. Why did Robo-Robotnik even need it when he could just build a giant mech himself? And sure was lucky of him that Scourge didn't immediately kill him to usurp him or something when he summoned him to be his mere lackey. And while I was really happy to see Scourge return, his lack of presence was fairly disappointing, as he's just defeated in one battle by being caught off guard with a trip. And that defeat didn't really matter, but still, it's just so short. He's the evil version of the main character, and it's been consistently shown to be his equal in power. That's making him a very formidable threat, more threatening than Eggman. And all that happens is he distracts Sonic and gets tripped once, making him artificially look, well, I say calling him pathetic for that alone would be stupid, because literally the exact same thing, being tripped, happened to Sonic because of Scourge. So you're calling Sonic pathetic if you say Scourge is pathetic here. He's not really pathetic. He's Sonic's equal. It's just that he looks pathetic here because of how short the fight is. It's so underwhelming. They didn't even really have a proper fight. Scourge used the robots as a distraction, and even he was a distraction. And what even became of him after this? I guess he was able to go back home through the cosmic interstate? It's weird, if he wanted to have all the other Sonics killed so badly so he'd stop feeling bad about not being the only one, why didn't he fight any of them? Why was he so content with this? Again, combining that with him merely wanting a race earlier, and maybe he honestly only cares about proving superiority over them, and doesn't actually want to or need to kill them. It makes sense if you consider his ego. Being confident means you like yourself, so you like yourself. You wouldn't want to hate an alternate version of you, because that means hating you, and you'd even like that person from your own self-respect. You recognize the things that you like about yourself in that person, and like them. That's why he offers Sonic to rule the world with him later on, after all. Because he likes himself that much, that he can easily imagine being great friends with that person instead of just wanting to be his enemy. His primary motivation, the only one he states in the comic, is that he wants to be the only one. Like he thought he was for most of his life, until he was robbed of that belief. I wonder why he's the only one to be upset at this, out of all the Sonics out there. Every Sonic seems to be fine with not really being special, rather than feeling meaningless, because there's so many other versions of them anyways. This isn't him being the most egotistical of all thing, because how can you feel meaningless? How can you feel like your worth is threatened from other versions of you, if you're the most egotistical of them all? Wouldn't you just not care? But I can't help but wonder if this added depth to his character was unintentional. Still, the fact that Scourge isn't so arrogant as to just assume he's the best of all of them, and actually wants to prove its superiority to them, maybe to himself. The fact that he never once states that he has any other goal than to be the only Sonic speaks volumes. He had no reason not to say he wanted power as a way to brag about how he's going to benefit from his alliance, but he never says anything about that. That thought doesn't seem to occur to him. Maybe he does, but that's clearly not his real motivation if he doesn't care enough to tell Sonic about it. I like the idea that all these Sonics have different designs to make it clear that they might have different hobbies and interests and even outlooks on life, all from having different circumstances in life. It's the nurture part of nature versus nurture. The reason the evil twins are so fascinating in the first place. A few of the designs sucked, but that's not enough to make the whole thing suck. It does make sense that only Sonic and the other Sonics were really getting to do anything in this on the hero side, because they're way more powerful and thus way more capable than Sally and Antoine and Bunny are. But the Freedom Fighters being completely pointless in this just standing around was still disappointing. The only one who does anything is, surprise surprise, Sally, who acts as a mediator. I love the concept and premise of this comic, so I can't say I hate it, but with all of those Sonics together on one side, them having an easy victory was a foregone conclusion with no real tension from the start. And the Giant's hand with no origin, no reason to exist, was only gotten because of a diabolic ex machina. Seriously, why couldn't it have been retrieved by Scourge running at super speed and picking it up? That would have made so much more sense than some magical invisible computer sensors being sent to the neutral zone and controlled across dimensions to steal it. Why didn't he steal it already? I feel like it's a good issue, but with a lot of problems.